moving on to the next session, or to the next slot, and we'll have Anna Nowak. Anna works at TomTom. She's a principal software engineer working for TomTom. She's joining us from, I'm assuming, her home. Anna, not sure if we're going to get to see your cat again. We had that in the briefing meeting, which I found adorable, but hey, that's I think there are different opinions on that topic. And Anna will talk to us about how TomTom uses data to assess the impact of COVID-19 on traffic. Anna, very much looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Kirsten. Actually, I'm at my mom's today, so no cats interrupting.
Too bad.
Let me share my screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes. And also in the auditorium, it also looks great, right? So we're good to go.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. My name is Anna Nowak, and I am a principal software engineer at TomTom. In my presentation, I would like to tell you about exploration of TomTom data that we performed to assess the impact of COVID-19 on traffic. At TomTom, we have been monitoring traffic in cities around the world for years. And when COVID-19 lockdowns started, we observed a dramatic change in our data. And it was so different than from we usually were seeing, that at some point it looked like the entire world just almost stopped driving. So we asked ourselves two questions. Was the COVID-19 impact on traffic really as widespread as it seemed? And are some of these changes going to stick around even after COVID? And in my presentation, I would like to share our findings with you. To do that, first, I'm going to tell you about the TomTom data we used in our investigation. Next, I'll show you how global the impact of COVID-19 on traffic was. And finally, I'll discuss which of these changes may persist, and therefore whether we can talk about the end of traditional working hours. So let me tell you about the data first. TomTom traffic data comes from a growing number of more than 600 million connected devices contributing in 79 countries around the world. That is 742 million kilometers driven every day. It's like going to Mars 9 times every day. So one of the things we do with all this data is the TomTom traffic index, which we also used in our analysis. The TomTom traffic index is a publicly available website with insights on live and historic road congestion levels in over 400 cities. Around the world. You can search for TomTom traffic index and check if your city is there. So here you can see the example of the live traffic data we have for Copenhagen with the current congestion level, as well as hourly congestion level charts going as far as last 7 days. Another thing you can find on the website are daily and weekly congestion level charts, which we added this year to help our users understand what was happening with traffic in their cities. And finally, every year, we publish a full year summary traffic report, which is also available for you to see. So as you can see, the main metric we use in TomTom traffic index is congestion level. So what exactly is TomTom congestion level? It's percentage increase in trip times compared with completely free-flowing traffic. To give you an example, 50% congestion level means that a trip will take 50% more time than it would during free-flowing traffic. So a 30-minute trip in uncongested conditions becomes a 45-minute trip in 50% congested conditions. So now that you know what data we used, let me show you how widespread the impact of COVID-19 on traffic was. To better understand that impact, we first looked at year 2019, which we consider normal year, to have a baseline. So in this heat map, you can see average weekly congestion levels for first 40 weeks in 400 cities that we have in TomTom Traffic Index. So on the vertical axis, we have weekly timeline starting at week 1, going to week 40, which is beginning of October. And on the horizontal axis, we have cities ordered by continent and country. For example, Bangkok is here. So first 40 weeks for Bangkok are here. The color reflects weekly congestion level in a city for a given week. And the color scale goes from dark green to dark red, with dark green being low congestion, no congestion, and dark red being heavy congestion. Okay, let's hide Bangkok. So we use the same color scale for all of the cities, which is why you might notice that some of the cities are more congested in general, and are more red and orange, while some other cities are less congested in general and are more green and yellow. But other than that, and some visible drops in congestion around summer vacation or New Year's in some cities, the 2019 picture looks pretty stable. So this is how a normal year looks like. Now, let's look at 2020 as well. As you can see, the impact of COVID-19 restrictions is visible in almost all of the cities. In some, it's more dramatic than in the others. So what you might have noticed is the US, where the drop in congestion started around mid-March and stayed low ever since. Europe, where low congestion levels are due to COVID-19 restrictions are visible in almost all of the cities. And China, where low congestion levels started earlier along with Chinese New Year's and continued as COVID-19 lockdown measures were introduced. So the next thing we did to see that impact even more clearly was combining these two charts by focusing on the differences between corresponding weeks in 2020 and 2019. So let's look at that picture. This is how it looks like. So in this heat map, the axes are still the same, but the color scale has been adjusted to show the differences. And it's limited to blue and red. So the blue color represents the weeks with congestion levels that was lower in 2020 than in 2019, while the red color represents the weeks in which congestion was higher. And I'm sorry, the darker the color, the bigger the difference. So just notice how the beginning of the year is dominated by red, meaning more congestion, and how clear the cut between red and blue gets when COVID-19 restrictions became effective in most of the cities. And another thing we found interesting is that how this picture gets blurry and random as we go further in the year. So now let's zoom in and focus on selected cities in which traffic was highly affected by COVID-19 lockdowns. So this time, we have the same color scale, but the axes are flipped. So now we have weekly timeline on the horizontal axis and selected cities on the vertical axis. And I hope you can notice the dark blue around mid-March, meaning substantial drop in congestion and traffic being lower than last year, even in the following weeks. And because it's a Nordic Perspective Summit, let's also take a look at selected cities from the Northern European countries. As you can see, and if you cannot see the difference, please believe me, the blue around mid-March is brighter, meaning the drop in congestion is not as dramatic as in the previous picture, but it's still visible. And you can even see some of that, the recovery in some of the cities in the following weeks. Which brings me to our second question. Is it really the end of traditional working hours now that we discovered all the benefits of working from home? To answer this question, we decided to focus on traffic patterns and rush hour traffic in particular. I'm going to use Copenhagen as an example again to show you the steps that we took for other cities as well. So first, for 3 selected months, February, April, and September, we calculated hourly congestion level averaged over all working days in order to see the average working day traffic pattern. We did that separately for 2019, which you can see on the blue line, and for 2020, which you can see on the red line. Next, for each of the selected months, we calculated relative difference between 2020 and 2019 for morning rush, which you can see on the yellow bar, and evening rush, which you can see on the dark blue bar. Now, we performed the same calculations for 400 cities we have in TomTom Traffic Index and focused on rush hour differences in order to see if there are any consistent changes across the cities. So now let's take a closer look at those changes and at morning rush traffic change in these cities. So we divided the changes into 3 categories. First, congestion level that was 10% or more lower than in 2019, which is depicted in blue. Second, the congestion level that was 10% or more higher than in 2019, which is depicted in red. And third, anything else in between, which we consider more or less similar, which is depicted in gray. As you can see, in February, before the COVID restrictions were introduced in most of the cities, the changes look pretty random. Whereas in April, after those restrictions were introduced in most cities, we noticed substantial drop. 96% of all cities experienced lower morning rush congestion in April. Now in September, we can see that in 73% of the cities, the morning rush congestion is still lower, while only in 5% of them it's higher. So morning rush traffic in September was up since April, but still far from how it was in February. So does it mean the end of traditional working hours? Well, unfortunately, it's too early to tell, as COVID restrictions are in place in many cities. To sum up, we have seen that indeed COVID-19 has changed traffic patterns globally. However, it's still too early to assess whether some of these changes are going to stick around. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing data. As advertised, super deep. Love it. Also, what made me feel good is that you used the Friends example on one of your slides. So given that you can, or assuming that you can still use this, I don't feel as old as I feel sometimes these days. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Any questions to Anna? Again, I'm looking at the chat tool. I haven't seen anything in the Zoom chat, but probably there is something on the screen.
Yes, there are some questions here I'm about to put in display. I'm trying to zoom it in. Whoops. Okay. We have a question that says, how data displayed in TomTom index is obtained?
Okay, I'm gonna try to answer that. So for each city, we defined a circle to cover the area of the city, as well as well, some of the parts that might not be the strict administrative part of the city, but influence the traffic within the city. And then for all of the road segments within that circle, we calculate the difference between free flow travel time, which is the time, the travel time in the city in uncongested condition, like, well, usually at night, at some point at night. And so the difference between free flow travel time and the actual travel time. And this is how the congestion level is calculated. I hope that answers the question.
And there's also another question that says, Anna, are you considering holiday and vacation periods in the traffic index? Easter might fall in March one year and April another.
That is a great question. So right now, we don't consider it simply because we don't have that information. But when we perform some local analysis around Easter time or some periods, holiday periods that are moving between years, then we consider them. I did not consider that in this data, though. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. And we're doing extremely well on time now. So Anna, thanks also for giving us back a couple of minutes.